Hey guys, I'm back for another video, and today I'm going to talk about Hytale again, and man, I've posted a lot of videos about this game, and if I'm overhyping things for you guys and making you like super duper anxious for launch, I apologize. But anyway, speaking of hype, today I'm going to discuss whether or not Hytale will live up to the hype. So before we answer this question, we need to consider, what does it mean for a game to be overhyped? Well, let's look at No Man's Sky for an example. If you guys don't know what that game is, then you got lucky. I'm going to give a brief summary nonetheless. So, No Man's Sky was a game that before launch was hyped up, and it told players that they would be able to explore the universe and be able to explore trillions of worlds, literally trillions of worlds, and each one would be unique. There'd be different stuff to get there. You'd be able to fight enemies, gather equipment. So it'd basically be like Minecraft in space, except it's not blocks, and there's like a bajillion worlds to go to, infinite stuff, and you'd have these really sick looking spaceships, and you'd be able to do all sorts of crap, and it was multiplayer. And apparently everybody played in the same universe, but everything is so freaking big that the chances of finding another player without like straight up traveling to them would be close to impossible because trillions of planets. But after launch, things were extremely disappointing. I mean, literally, No Man's Sky was a game that people looked at as almost a life simulator. And No Man's Sky was seen as a video game where you could do almost anything. Problem is, when the game released, you could do almost nothing. In comparison, at least. I mean, the performance of the game was bad. Every time you made it to a new planet, it was almost like the last one, except it just looked a little different, but like everything functioned exactly the same. On launch, you couldn't even, there wasn't even multiplayer. The game literally was not even multiplayer, even though they advertised that it was. Because what ended up happening is two players found the same planet, and they tried to meet up, and they went in the same exact spot, and they didn't see each other. So let that be a lesson to anybody that pre-orders games. Luckily, I was able to return my copy of the game. I mean, if you saw my live stream of it, it was a disaster. The performance issues alone made it almost unplayable. Like, one of the coolest sequences in the game was going like hyperspeed and like exiting a planet, but during the whole freaking ordeal, it was lagging, and it was horrible. Well, luckily though, No Man's Sky has been, you know, the devs actually are continuing to work on it. They are giving it some love, and it has been making a comeback. But that doesn't deny the fact that it was probably one of the biggest flops / disappointments in gaming history. Like, it was that bad. And then only a few years later, Fallout 76. Oh, Bethesda, why did you do this? Alright, well, to those of you that don't know me and my gaming preferences, Fallout New Vegas is my favorite game of all time. It has a special place in my heart. It is a game that, honestly, I enjoyed that game more than I enjoyed Minecraft. Like, for real. I literally, like, that game was the best. It's my number one. And I figured that the licensing company Bethesda, when they released Fallout 4, they would have something that's just as insane, just as amazing, was super hyped. And Fallout 4 was kind of meh. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't really good either. It was kind of like Fallout 3, but worse. Except, like, sure, it had a shiny coat of paint on it, but it was like, I don't know, it felt dead. You know, I don't know. Something about it didn't feel like there was much soul to it. But I still had hope, and then they said they were going to release a multiplayer Fallout named Fallout 76. Now, I've been quoted as saying in videos that I'm suspicious that it might be a bad game because Fallout is a single-player experience, and making it multiplayer might spoil it. Unless it's in a modded environment. And I was right. When it released, the idea of multiplayer Fallout, a lot of things just fall apart. For one thing, VATS isn't even slow-mo anymore. It's real time. you can't slow down time to shoot enemies. You just basically get temporary aimbot that's actually really bad because you only get a certain percentage to hit something. There were literally no talking NPCs other than robots. The game had like only a few enemy types, one of which was called the Scorched, and it was the most boring and uninspired enemy type that I've ever seen in any friggin' RPG game. Not to mention that they completely screwed up the storyline of Fallout. Like, the Brotherhood of Steel weren't even supposed to exist yet at that point, yet they were in the game. Like, they ruined the lore of the universe. Oh, and not to mention the fact that they said there would be 0 microtransactions in a $60 game, which, by the way, is like 110 with like DLC content, like the ultimate editions or whatever. And then there was all this controversy with like about getting a duffel bag with the game, and apparently it was like really cheap material that's like plastic, like what a tent would be made out of, where they said it was going to be some really expensive like vinyl or leather or something like that. I don't freaking know. But the point I'm trying to make again is that games can get overhyped super duper easily, and even Bethesda's not immune to it. Now they're actually starting to just over and over again prove that they don't care about the community anymore. But let's bring this to Hytale and Hypixel. What makes them any different? I mean, my channel has uploaded over 30 videos talking about what could be / should be in Hytale, and it's so super duper hyped. It's got like 35 million views on the trailer. And what makes it immune to disappointment on launch day from all of this hype? Well, first off, I think they're trying their best to keep hype down, but the problem is their attempts are making the hype even greater. They're holding back information from us intentionally. They don't want to drop too much information on us at once, but them doing that is actually producing even more hype, which is uncontrollable at this point. I don't think they have control over the hype of their fan base. It is literally something that I bet the devs for Hytale would rather that there be less hype right now, because they don't want people to get disappointed. I'm not saying that the game's going to be worse than expected, but I'm saying that we've reached a point now where people think that literally whatever they want will be in the game. There's a reason why a lot of my videos are called ideas or suggestions or theorizing. I don't know 100% of these things are in the game, but I'm suggesting it to the developers. I'm trying my best to give ideas to the devs before release such that they can create something that lives up to the hype. And are they going to be able to do that? I don't know. Because there's an unrealistic amount of hype centered around this game. All I hope, right, is that people don't get disappointed on launch day. Because even if the game doesn't live up to hype on day one, which I predict it will not live up to the hype that has been generated, because again, it's not even the fault of the game at that point, it's just unfair amounts of hype. Like, it is unrealistic. Like, people are super excited to this game. They're thinking that this is going to be like their universe for a long time. Which I'm not saying it won't be, but still. What I think is that if the game doesn't live up to the hype day one, it will live up to the hype in the long term because of its modability. If somebody wants a feature in the game, they can make it themselves. And that's just like what happened with Minecraft, right? You can make your own stories, you can make your own custom maps, you can make your own mods, you can make your own creations, set goals for yourself, create games inside the game, and that makes it extremely malleable. All I hope is that the base experience is as close to the hype's portrayal of it as possible. I really don't want this game to be overhyped, which is why I am not saying these things are going to be in the game. Like with all my suggestion videos, they're things that could be, and if they're not, that's okay, because they could be modded in. I mean, even though most of my suggestions are themed around the idea of making modding better, so I don't know. So what makes Hytale different from other sandbox moddable games like Garry's Mod? Well, Garry's Mod, even though you could technically make whatever you want in it, the game is not well optimized at all. It is made, like, the engine was made like a decade and a half ago, and it is super duper old. There's zero hype around it, and even if you were able to create any game you want in that engine, it's like the source engine, you know? You can't do a heck of a lot with it in a seamless way. It might act like any game you want, but it's always going to look like a Half-Life copy. and it's just going to perform slowly. It's going to take forever to load everything. Whereas in Hytale, if the performance is good, you can do whatever you want, and the only limitation is that it's going to be a cube/voxel based game. That is it. You could otherwise, I think what they're aiming for with these modding tools is that you can make it into any game you want. And that's why I think in the long term, the game will live up to hype, but in the short term, I think Hytale risks being a disappointment for some. Not for all, definitely not for me, because I have realistic standards for what this game's going to be. I know for a fact it's going to at least be better than Minecraft. So, that's where my expectations are set right now. I think some people are off in space right now. They literally think that this game is going to be their life, and to them, I would say, just hold up there, bud. The game's going to be good, but be careful. You don't want to disappoint yourself. That's it for this video, guys. It was a pretty short one because, I don't know, it's a simple question with a simple answer. For one example of making any game you want in Hytale, I would like to show you guys Blockshot. It's a little passion project of mine that I started a few weeks ago, and with the help of some awesome people from the internet, we are constructing a large development team. We are going to create the Hytale FPS server network. So with that, I guess that's it. The link's in the description down below and in the pinned comment. Well, anyway, that's it. So, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys later.